Welcome everyone to part 4 of this Blender tutorial series where we're creating this sci-fi worker robot. So in this part, we are going to be finishing the modeling. So all we have left to do is to model the arms and the hands. Now real quick before we start this tutorial, if you'd like to help support me and this YouTube channel, then some great places to do that are on my Gumroad store and my Patreon. And on my Gumroad and Patreon, you can get 3D models and assets. You can also get the procedural materials that I create. You can also get the tutorial files and artwork project files. And you can also get the tutorial files for this robot. So if you'd like to help support the channel, I will have the links in the description to my Gumroad store and my Patreon page. Alright, now before we actually model the hands, I actually want to make the face a little bit longer. That's just something that I noticed. So I'm going to select the face and then I'm going to hold down the shift key and I'm going to shift select these pieces right here that are on the front of the face. So I can now press tab to go into edit mode, and this is going to take us into the multi-object editing so we can actually edit multiple objects. So I'm now going to press 3 and 3 is going to take me to the side view, and I can press Z, move my mouse over and let go to go into wireframe. I'm now going to press B for the box select, and I'm going to box select all of these vertices. So this one down here and also everything up on front. I'm now going to press G to grab, and I'm going to click with my mouse wheel and I'm going to constrain it to the y-axis, and I'm just going to bring it out a little bit. I don't want to bring it out that much, but just a little bit more like that. So now the face is just a little bit more forward, it's a little bit longer. So I do think that looks just a little bit nicer if the face is a bit longer. Alright, so let's get started with the arms. So first I'm going to create kind of some shoulder pieces, which are going to be right here on the sides of the robot. So I'm going to press Shift C, and that'll make sure the 3D cursor is in the very center of our scene. So I can now press Shift A, and to create the first part, I'm going to add another cylinder. Let's press G to grab, Z on the Z axis. We're just going to bring this down, and then I'm going to bring this over like that. So I can now tab to go into edit mode, and I want to press G to grab, bring it over on the X axis just like that, and then I can press R to rotate. I'm going to rotate it on the Y axis, and then I can type in 9, 0, and enter just to rotate that over by 90 degrees. And then I can press S to scale. We're going to scale that down. I'll press G to grab. We're going to move it on the X axis, and I'm just going to stick this right in here. So we're going to stick it into the side of the robot. I'll also move it up a little bit. And then also I'm going to go inside here, go inside the robot, and we don't actually need this face right here. So I'm going to click right up here to go to the face select, and I can just select this face, and then I can just press X, and we want to delete the faces because we really don't need it. And then you can just kind of adjust this if you need to move it around at all. So I'm going to tab back into edit mode, and then I also want to add a mirror modifier. So let's click on add modifier. I'm going to add the mirror modifier right here, add the mirror modifier so it mirrors it over to the other side. Now I'm going to select this front face, and I want to press G to grab and X on the X axis, and I want to bring this in just so that it about touches that. And then also I think I will select everything and bring it forward just a little bit. So basically there should be just a tiny little space right there. So I'm now going to press I, and I is going to inset the face, and I'm just going to scale that down. And then I'm going to press E to extrude. I'm going to extrude that out, and then I can press E to extrude, S to scale, and I can scale that up. And if you want to get it to pretty much the exact amount, you can press 3, and that's going to go to side view, and then you can just zoom in and just scale this so it's right about at the same size. So just like that. Alright, so I'm now going to press E to extrude, and I'm just going to extrude this out and just bring it out just like that. And then let's also shade this smooth, just like all the other objects. We're going to shade it smooth, and then we need to add more geometry. So let's click on add modifier, and we're going to add the bevel modifier. And then just like the other objects, I like to turn these segments up to 4, and then you can zoom in here and hold down the shift key, and I'm going to shift and drag with my mouse, and that's going to make that much thinner. So I'm just going to make a tiny little bevel just like that. Alright, so that is pretty much it for the robot shoulders. So now I want to create another piece, which is going to be the upper arm. So I'm going to tab back into edit mode, and I'm just going to select this face. I'll press Shift D, and I'm going to bring it over on the X axis, just place it right there, and then I'm going to press P, and I'm going to separate by selection. So if I tab back into object mode, you can see this is now a separate object. So I'll tab back into edit mode. I'm going to select everything. Then I can press G to grab, bring it over on the X axis, and I'm just going to stick it right about there. So I can now press E, and E is going to extrude this out. And then I'm going to press I, and I is going to inset that, and I'm going to just bring it down. Then I can press E to extrude again, bring that out a little bit, and then I'll press S to scale. We're going to scale that down a little bit, not too much, just like that. Then I can press I again, and I is going to inset that, so there's a face within a face. And then I'll press E to extrude, and we're going to add just a little detail in here. It's going to be kind of similar to this one right up here. So I'm going to press I to inset. We're going to make this pretty small, something like that, and then I'll press E to extrude and just to kind of extrude that out. All right, so I now want to select some of these faces and extrude them out to actually create the upper arm. So I'm going to press 3 or click right up here to go to the face select, and I want to select these two faces on the side, so just shift select them. Then I want to select the two next ones, and then I'm going to shift select the two next ones. So we now have 6 faces selected, and they're the faces that are pointing out this way in the front of the robot. So I can now press 3 to go to side view, and then I'm going to press E, and E is going to extrude these out, and I'll just bring them out about that far. And then I want to flatten this, so I'm going to press S to scale, and I want to scale it on the y-axis, and then I can type 0 and enter. And then we don't need these faces here, so I'll press X to delete, and we're going to delete the faces. And then I'm going to go back to the vertex select, and I want to hold down the Alt key and just Alt select that loop of vertices. Now I want to just scale it in a little bit so it's just slightly thinner. So I'll press S to scale, and I'm going to scale it on the y-axis and just make it a bit smaller and just click to place that. All right, so now I'm going to create a cylinder right here, and this way the arms will be able to rotate sideways. So I'm going to press Shift C again to center the 3D cursor. I'll press Shift A, and I'm going to add a cylinder. I'll press G to grab, bring it down on the Z axis, and also G to grab, and we're going to bring it over. I can now press 7 to go to top view, and I'm going to tab into edit mode. I can press G to grab, we're going to bring that over, and S to scale, we're going to scale that down, and I'll just scale it down and put it on the robot's arm, so basically like that. And then I can press S and Z, we're going to bring that up, and I'll press G to grab, Z, and bring it up on the Z axis, and we're going to make it just slightly bigger, so just slightly bigger than this arm, so something like that. And then again, I want to click on add modifier, and I'm going to add the mirror modifier so it mirrors it over to the other side. Now I do want it to be mirrored over on the X axis, but I also want it to be mirrored up and down because it's going to be the same up and down. So I'm going to press Ctrl R to add a loop cut. I'm going to left click and then right click so it places it right there in the center. Then I can Alt select this loop of vertices, and I'll just press X to delete, and I want to delete the vertices. So now I can click on the Z button, and you can see it's going to mirror it on the Z axis. I just need to select this and press G and Z. We're going to bring it down. Then I just need to turn on the clipping button right there, and then I can press G and Z and make it a little bit bigger, and that's going to be merged together. So I can tab into object mode, and I'll press G and Z. We're going to bring the whole object up and just kind of bring it up to the center. And then I can tab into edit mode, and I'll press G and Z, G to grab, Z on the Z axis, just make that a bit smaller, and then back in object mode you can just move it up. So that is looking good, so it should just be slightly bigger. So I'll tab back into edit mode, and I want to go back to the face select. So I can now just select this face, and I want to add a little detail here, so I'll press E to extrude, and then S to scale. We're just going to scale that out just a little, and then I'll press E to extrude, just kind of scale that up, or bring it up like that. Maybe not quite that high, something like that is pretty good. Maybe just a little bit farther down. All right, and then we need to shade this smooth with the object context menu in object mode. And then again, we need to click on add modifier. We're going to add the bevel. Again, I'm going to turn these segments up to 4 on the bevel, and then I'll turn this amount way down. So I'm just going to turn that really small, just like that. So now we'll be able to rotate that cylinder, and it's going to rotate the hand moving in and out. And then this object right here will be rotating it up and down. So this one will rotate it up and down, and this one will rotate it back and forth. So now let's create the lower arm. So I'm going to select this object. Let's tab into edit mode, and I want to go back to the vertex select, and then just box select this. So just make sure that endpoint is selected. I'm going to press Shift D to duplicate, and then just click with your mouse wheel, constrain it to the Y-axis, and I just want to put it right in here. All right, so you shouldn't be able to see it. Now I want to separate it into its own object. So I'm going to press P, and then I'm going to separate by selection. So I can now tab into object mode, just select this and tab into edit mode. So I'm now going to press E to extrude. We're going to extrude that out on the y-axis, and I'm just going to bring it out about that far, and then I'll press S to scale. I want to scale it on the x-axis and just make it a bit thicker. Then I can press E to extrude, and again I want to extrude it out on the y-axis, and then I can scale it on the x-axis. So I'll press S and X and just bring that down, and then I can press E to extrude. We're going to extrude it one more time on the y-axis. Now this is a little bit too long, so I'm going to double tap the A key, and I'm going to press S to scale, and I'm going to scale it on the y-axis, and I'll just make everything a little bit smaller, and then I can just bring it back into place. I'm going to tab into edit mode, and I want to cut out some holes right here. So I'm going to press 3 or go to the face select, and I'm going to shift select this face and this face as well. I'll press X to delete, and I want to delete the faces, and then I can select this face, shift select this face, so the same faces on the other side, and I want to delete the faces. So now I just need to fill these. So I'm going to press 1 to go to the vertex select. I'm just going to shift select these 4 vertices just like that, and I'll press F to fill a face. Then I can shift select these 2 vertices, and I'll press F, and that is going to go over and fill it. And then I can do the same thing down here. So I can just select this vertex and then shift select this vertex. I'll press F and that'll fill that. And then we'll do the same thing down here. So I'll shift and select these 4 vertices, and I'll press F to fill that. And then I can shift select these 2. And I'll press F and that'll fill the top one. And then I can shift select these 2. So select this one, shift and select that one, and then I can press F to fill that. All right, there we go. So if I tab back into object mode, you can see that's looking pretty cool. And then I need to shade the smooth with the object context menu. Now you can see that right here isn't very sharp. So I'm just going to tab into edit mode, and I'll press Control R. I'll add a loop cut right here, and I'm going to drag it all the way over so it's very close. So now that looks a bit sharper. All right, so we can now create a circular piece, and this is going to be kind of the middle of the arm, and then that'll make it so that the arm can rotate up and down. So I'm going to select this object right here, and we can actually just use this object for the other piece. So I'll press Shift D to duplicate. I'm going to click with my mouse wheel and constrain it, and I'm just going to bring it right over here. And then I can tab into edit mode. So I want to hold down the Alt key and select this ring of vertices, and I just want to delete it. So I'll press X, and I just want to delete the vertices, and then I want to fill this part back in. So I'll select this, and then shift select this vertex. So we just have both of these top ones selected. And then I'm going to press F, and I'm just going to continue to press F, and that is going to fill all those faces back up. All right, so I can now press 7, and that's going to go to top view, and I can tab into edit mode. So I just want to Alt and select this loop of vertices, and I'll press G to grab, click with my mouse wheel, and I'm just going to bring that over so it's much more thin. And then I can double tap the A key, and I'll press G to grab, bring it over on the X-axis, and just stick that right there. So I now want to duplicate this and move it over to the other side. So I'm going to press Shift D, click with my mouse wheel, constrain it to the X-axis, and then I want to flip this. So I'm going to press S to scale, and I want to scale it on the X-axis. Now I want to flip it over so it's exactly mirrored over to the other side. So to do that, I'm going to type in -1, enter. So now it's flipped over. It's basically been flipped inside out. And because it's been flipped inside out, we also need to recalculate the normals. So let's just press Shift N, and that will recalculate the normals. And then I can press 7 for top view, and I want to press G to grab, bring it over on the X-axis just to about there. And then I can tab back into object mode, and I want to bring the entire thing over a little bit closer toward the arms. So I now want to tab back into edit mode, and I want to merge these together, so I want to add a loop right in there. So what I'm going to do is press 3 or click right up here to the face select. I'm going to select both of these faces, so shift select both of these faces. So I'll now press I to inset, and I'm going to inset the faces down to about there. Then I'm going to press X, and I want to delete the faces, so now they're open, and so now I just want to fill a face right in between here. So I'm going to go back to the vertex select. I'm going to hold down the Alt key and select this loop of vertices, and then I'm going to hold down the Shift and Alt key and select that loop of vertices. So I now just need to fill faces in between them. So to fill faces in between these, there's actually a really cool tool to do that. If you press Control E, then all of these settings are going to come up, and we want to click on the bridge edge loops. And you can see that it's going to bridge all of them. It's going to add faces in between them. So now they are merged together. And then on this object, just make sure that the vertices are going inside there. Let's press Control S again to save, and then we're going to create one more piece, and then that piece is going to be connected to two little claws. So I'm going to select this object, and I will tab back into edit mode. And then I want to press Z, move my mouse over to go into wireframe, and I want to Alt select this loop of vertices, just like that. So I can now press Shift D to duplicate. I'm going to click with my mouse wheel, and I'm just going to bring it over to about here. And then again, I want to separate this into its own object. So I'm going to press P, and I want to separate by selection. So now it's its own object. I can tab into object mode. I'm just going to select this, and I'm going to tab into edit mode. I can press A to select everything, and then I'll press E to extrude. Click with my mouse wheel, we're going to constrain it to the y-axis, and I can go out of wireframe. I'll go back into solid so I can see this a little bit better. So I'll press G to grab, bring it over on the y-axis, just like that, and I'll bring it out a little bit farther. So something like that is pretty good. Then I can press S to scale, and I want to scale it on the z-axis, and I'm just going to scale it up like that. Now I want to press E to extrude, and then S to scale, and I want to scale the entire thing down. And then I'll press S to scale, we're going to scale it on the x-axis, and I'm just going to make it a bit thinner and a bit smaller. Then I'll press E to extrude. We're going to extrude it out on the y-axis again and just bring it over like that. So now the rotating claws are going to be connected right here. And then I want to fill faces right in here. So I'm going to select this vertex, shift select this vertex, and then I can just continue to press F until that's all filled. All right, so I'll press 3 to go to side view, and I actually want this piece to kind of rotate over a bit. So I'll press Z, move my mouse over to go into wireframe, I'll deselect everything, and then I'm just going to box select all of these vertices. So just like that. I can now press G to grab, we're gonna bring it over on the Y-axis, just like that, and then using the box select, I can click with my mouse wheel and deselect those vertices. So I'm just going to press B for the box select. Then I'm going to click and hold with my mouse wheel and drag over. That'll deselect it. And then I can press G to grab and Y on the Y-axis. We're just going to bring that over. And then again, B for the box select and click with your mouse wheel and deselect those. And then G and Y, we're going to bring that over just so that it kind of rotates a little bit. All right, so go back into object mode and you can shade this smooth with the object context menu. And now we can just create those claws that are going to be connected to that metal piece. So to create the claws, I can again use this object because the claws are very similar to this object. So I'll press Shift D to duplicate, click with my mouse wheel, we're going to bring it over. I'm going to tab into edit mode and I'll press A to select everything. And then I can press S to scale. We're going to scale this pretty small and I'll press G, move it over on the y-axis and just bring it over to about there. And I'll move this over a little bit farther. I'll scale it up a little bit because it doesn't need to be quite that small. So something like that. And then also I can press S to scale. We're going to scale on the x-axis and I'll make it a little bit thinner. And then I can press G to grab, move it over on the x-axis, and I'll just stick it right there. I'll tab back into object mode, and we actually don't need this to be that far out. So I'll tab into edit mode. I'll press Z to go to wireframe, and I'm just going to box select all of those vertices. And then I can press G to grab and just bring it over on the y-axis, just like that. All right, so this object will be the first claw. So I'll tab into edit mode, and I'm going to Alt and select that loop of vertices. And then I can press 3 to go to side view. So if you zoom way out, you can see how big the grids are. I want the claw to be almost one grid, but not quite one full grid. So you can see the claws starting here, about halfway through this grid. So if I just bring this out to half of this grid, then that'll be about one grid, from half a grid here to half a grid right there. So I'll press G to grab, and I'll bring it over on the y-axis, and I'm just going to bring it about that far. You can also just eyeball it, that's totally fine. Make the claws however big you want them. And I think I'll bring them back just a little bit because that does seem slightly long. All right, and then I need to select this vertex, shift select this vertex, and I can just press F a bunch of times to fill those faces. So now I want to have kind of a little spiky thing coming up. So I'm going to press Control R to add a loop cut, and I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to add a loop cut right about there. And then before I extrude that up, I want to duplicate this and move it over so that I can have two claws. So I'm going to tab back into object mode, and then I'm going to press Shift D to duplicate, and then I'll press Escape so it's back in its default position. So I'll now tab into edit mode, and I'm going to press A to select everything. So I can now press S to scale. I want to flip this around and mirror it. So I'm going to scale it on the x-axis, and then I can type in -1 and enter. So now it's completely flipped it. So I can press G to grab, bring it over on the x-axis, and I can just stick it right there. And then I can press Shift-N to recalculate the normals. All right, so now this one I'm going to have going up, and this one I'm going to have going down. So I'm going to tab back into edit mode on this first one. I'm going to press 3 or click right up here on the face select, and I'm just going to select this face. So I can now press E to extrude, and I'm just going to extrude it up about that far. And then I will go back to the vertex select. I'm going to select this vertex, shift select this vertex. I'll press G and Y, and I'm just going to bring that in a little bit. So now we're basically just going to do the same thing for this one here. So I'll tab in edit mode, and I'm going to press 3 to go to the face select. I'll select this face, and I can press E to extrude. We're going to extrude that down just like that, and then I can click right here to go to the vertex select, and I'm just going to select this vertex, shift select this vertex, and then I can press G to grab and Y on the Y axis, and I'm just going to bring that down just like that. Tab back into object mode, and we now have both of those claws. So we're basically just going to rotate these claws. They aren't rotating correctly right now because we still haven't set that up, but basically these claws will rotate up, and then these claws can rotate down, and we'll be able to animate that. All right, so we are almost done with this part, but there's one more thing that I want to do. I want to add just one big cube, and then we'll use that cube to move the entire robot. So I'm going to press Shift C, and that's going to center the 3D cursor. I'll press Shift A, and I'm going to add a cube. I'm going to tab into edit mode, and I'm going to scale this cube up, and I'll press 7 to go to top view. I'll press Z, move my mouse over and go into wireframe, and I want to press G to grab, and I'll bring this cube back on the Y axis just like that. And then I can press 3 or go to the face select, and I'm going to select this bottom face. I can go back into the solid view, and I'll press G and Z, and we're going to bring this way down, and I'm just going to put this down just a little bit farther than those wheels, so just about like that. Then back up here I can select this, and I'll press G and Z, and I'm going to bring this down so it's just a little bit higher than the head, and the antenna can stick out. I don't really mind that, and also the hands can stick out. I don't really care much about that. Alright, so we can't see through this, so I'm going to double tap the A key to select everything, and then I want to press X to delete. Now I still want to be able to see the wireframe of the cube, so I'm going to click on only faces. That way it's going to delete the faces, but it's still going to keep the vertices and the edges. So just press Ctrl S to save your project, and this is going to wrap it up for part 4 of the tutorial series. So we are now finished with the modeling. So in the next part, in part 5, we're going to be setting up some basic lighting, and then we are going to do all of the materials. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you've been enjoying this tutorial series. So to watch the next part, I'll have it right up there. I'll have the link to the video right up there on the end screen, and then I'll also have the link in the description. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in part 5.